Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto and welcome back from the original Cilinix headquarters. We're going to do a full weekend update in this video. So we'll talk a little bit about Bitcoin, we'll talk a little bit about XRP, we'll talk a little bit about Ethereum, and we will mostly talk about fundamentals. Obviously, I mean, the fundamentals yesterday, we cannot say much about that, but I wanted to talk about some ETF inflows. I wanted to talk about what major whales are doing in the space right now, because there's an interesting shift. And of course, we will talk about the general market dynamics and what to expect from that. I wanted to make my full daily updates again today, but honestly, I was a little bit tired, so that will be something for tomorrow. But tomorrow morning, we'll be back with all the videos in the morning. So the Bitcoin updates, XRP updates, Ethereum updates, and some others. I mean, I wanted to cover ICP again, for example. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. First of all, talking about the fundamentals and how it closed yesterday. It closed relatively fine, right? I mean, if you take a look at the S&P 500, for example, you can actually see that we bounced up relatively nicely towards the end of the US session, which was also fueled by the volatility index dropping down quite severely. Is this a positive development? Certainly. But honestly, it's also something we've seen the past 2 Fridays as well. As you can see, this Friday, but also, so this Friday right here, but also the Friday before that right here, the volatility index dropped down as well. And then the Friday before that, the volatility index dropped down as well. So it's really going to be Monday and Tuesday that are going to tell us, okay, is the volatility index sustainably going to go down, which would be great news. Then we have a little bit less uncertainty in the markets, and then hopefully we can form a bottom for Bitcoin and the altcoins. At this point of time, it's too early to call. We've had some good news coming in here and there. For example, with the Nvidia earnings, those were snowed under a little bit by other fundamentals. But outside of that, I mean, when we're talking about the liquidity problems, for example, in the United States, the development of those in the last couple of days actually wasn't bad either. The SOFR spread has decreased significantly. There have been no repo operations except for Monday, so that is positive. And then if you look at the Fed watch, so if you look at the probability that we are going to get another rate cut, the next Federal Reserve meeting, which is the 10th of December, you can see that probability at this point of time is actually sitting at 71%. So looking at all of these things, you would say, okay, these fundamentals are actually quite good, which is ultimately also why the volatility in index dropped down. Now, it's not all good, of course. I mean, ultimately, the S&P 500 is still trading much lower, and on the 1 hour time frame, but also on the 4 hour time frame, it's actually technically in a downtrend. Yes, you heard that correctly. That's the first time that the S&P 500 is in a downtrend since the 24th of April, 2025. So that does matter. And we also got some economic data, for example, on Thursday. That was not amazing. So the fundamentals are definitely not all good, but there is some positive development that at least can make me say that the fundamentals for now going into the weekend are neutral. And then Monday, Tuesday, those will be critical. Maybe we're still going to get some news over the course of the weekend. I doubt it. But ultimately, the statistics we're going to get in on Monday are going to be very important. The economic data that we're going to get in throughout the rest of the next week is going to be very important. The updates we might get on the situation of the war between Russia and Ukraine, that's going to be important. So those will be things I will be watching, and I will keep you updated on as well. But given the current fundamental situation, when we're talking about Bitcoin, I still have those beautiful drawings on the chart, as you can see right here. I do think we have a good chance to form a local bottom right here. Okay, and that's for multiple reasons. First of all, on the higher time frames, we just hit a significant support level, right? I've spoken about this level quite often. That's a level around 85,000, which is the point of control of the range we held from February 2025 until April 2025. So that's a high liquidity zone. We also have the trend line. And we also just have a high time frame demand zone, but I deleted that, so my apologies for that. But trust me, it's there, around 86, 85. And then we drop down into that level, so a significant higher time frame demand zone. We have formed all those imbalances to the upside, right? So those tend to get filled often historically. And then on the lower time frames, this is not Bitcoin, but if we go to Bitcoin, you can also see all the bullish divergences that we have and the stability we have formed over the course of Friday. with some spikes to the downside, but you can see we also got some beautiful bullish momentum coming in, which this is the first bullish momentum we saw coming in to Bitcoin in a long time. The last time we had that was Tuesday, the 18th of November, after which we also saw some stability. So I think stability is most likely right now. I don't see enough momentum to say that stability is going to turn into an uptrend, but when we're being honest, and you see that major higher time frame support zone, and you see those imbalances to the downsides and how far we have already fallen, and then you talk about the fundamentals. Okay, fundamentally, is it actually likely that we're going to drop down even more? Like the fundamentals, like I said, they were bad, and there's still fundamentals that are bad, and that's why we dropped down. But has there been such bearish developments in the fundamentals to expect further bearish pressure? In my opinion, no. Okay, so that's why, and look, I'm also telling you, I also don't see enough right now to tell you. I think we're going to be bullish. I think we're going to get into an uptrend, but I do think it's more likely that we will be forming some sort of a bottom right here, and that we'll be able to get some sort of stability between 89,500. Which is our critical resistance level. Like that is ultimately the level we need to reclaim to get a further uptrend on the lower time frames. I don't expect that. I don't expect us to break above that. To break above that, we need good news. And good news, we don't have at this point of time. We have some fundamentals that are developing in the right direction, but they're not bullish, right? So I expect us to move up. I expect us to form a bottom, but then ultimately I expect stability, okay? And then from that stability, we will either get a little bit more information from the price action, or we will get more information from the fundamentals. And then from that stability, we can say, okay, it's most likely we'll reclaim 89,000 and get some more bullish momentum up to 95, 98, whatever. Or if we get some bad news, we can still drop down into the next support level. And the next support level for Bitcoin at this point of time, I would argue, is going to be all the way down here at like 74 and 70,000, which is obviously not where we want to go. So those are my thoughts. And generally, like most altcoins will just follow Bitcoin. So be aware of that. What I say on Bitcoin is most likely also what I think on most altcoins. When we're talking Ethereum, when we're talking XRP, it's the same. Ethereum has found support at that significant support level at 2670. We got some shorts closing. I think we can get some more stability. I think we can get some more bullish momentum, or at least upwards price action. I don't think we can reclaim 2900 or 2850. Which is the most important near resistance level right now. Same thing for XRP. I think XRP can find stability at 1.85, 1.9. I think we can move into $2 and 2.05. I don't think we can break above that. So in that sense, the entire market is very correlated. And then when we're talking altcoins, I mean, there's a few manipulated coins, I would argue, something like Layer. I think Zcash has had a bearish breakdown. I think if Zcash is going to be able to reclaim 545, that is the critical area, then that is an opportunity. But that is something like at this point of time, I would say it's not an opportunity. So wait for the reclaim. But Zcash is a coin I think you should not ignore. I think Aster still has relatively high volume, although I don't very much like the structure. And that is about it. I could talk about a couple of more coins, but I'm going to leave that for tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow I will be a little bit fitter and a little bit more well rested, so then we can talk about a couple of potential runners going into next week. But for now, I think that is what you need to know over the course of this weekend. So thank you for watching, everybody. Take care and bye.